At the beginning of preseason, Imperial Mandate was like the only good mythic item. Nothing else worked. And Nami was like the only champ who seemed good with Mandate. So I was like, okay, I'll try playing Nami. And I played like 400 Nami games on a Smurf. And while I enjoyed playing Nami, I've always felt like the champ is good in lane, but then like just useless later in team fights, as opposed to Sona, Janna, Yumi, who consistently carry later. But my hope was, okay, now Nami can just win lane and like with Mandate, be useful later in the game, and like games end early anyways. But I spent hundreds of games. I had to even just get good enough to get out of Diamond consistently on Nami. And like the highest I got with Nami was like 500 LP. But I never got Challenger just playing Nami. And I feel like if you're experimenting with the champ, you have to be playing to win and climb, and clearly Nami was just not doing that. So I did just give up on Nami in the end. But I will say a few like somewhat subtle things I learned are like really important for Nami. So number one, because W has a travel time, and you want to be in range for at least like one bounce or two in lane. If it's hard to walk up to an enemy champ, especially if they're just like sitting under their tower or something, then there are times when it's better to start your W on yourself at like the max range so that you can immediately walk away as soon as it starts to bounce, as opposed to having to stick around for like if you W the enemy champ, you have to wait until it bounces to them and then starts to bounce back to you, because that means you have to wait longer and you can get caught on the way out by like a tower shot or something. Uh, so it's sort of the same principle as if like you're using Sona's Q while standing in tower range, and then you walk out of the tower range while your Q is traveling. In the same way, if you start the Nami W on yourself, you don't have to stay in tower range as long to get the bounce towards the enemy, because you can just start walking away. But if you're just in lane and you can like stick around and auto the enemy champ, then you might as well just W the enemy and start it on them as well. And you can also choose to start W on like an ally or an enemy champ to like try and get as many bounces as possible. And then number two, Nami Q is a really terrible ability in that every champion people play in 2021 moves faster than your skill shot, so it should never really hit, which is maybe a bit exaggerated, but like yeah, against people with hands and like sub 100 ping, I don't think Nami Q should ever hit. But that said, versus like mobile champs, if you start with your R or even your EW, you can hit. It's worth noting your E works on abilities. So if you E yourself before using W, your W will slow them. So like against an immobile champion like a Felios or something, your R into your Q should at least get a flash or the bubble will hit them. But again, versus most champions people play, Nami just does not land Q. So I think the most important thing for Nami, actually like overall, is to just save her Q until you can follow up on an ally with a good CC ability, like a Pantheon stun, because you can also try to throw Q from out of vision or something, but I think in team fights, saving Q until you guarantee following up on an ally CC is like the only way for Nami to like reliably like extend CC duration. So you really want to be following the ally CC with your Q rather than just throwing it out yourself. Um, so yeah, if you want to play Mandate, Nami, just put her E on people. They do stuff. One lane I had a lot of fun with was playing Nami Brand, because your E procs in his passive, so you can just like combo burning minions with his E to spread the passive to enemy champions. And if you E him, like you just get so many free ticks of damage on the enemy champs. But personally, once they fixed Moonstone and it became better than Mandate, I just gave up on Nami. So yeah, she's fun. You feel good playing Nami because you win lane, but I don't think Nami is as useful later. So the champs I switched to playing were like Sona, Janna, Yumi, also Lulu. I've actually never been a huge Lulu player, despite playing a lot of similar champs. Like the last time I really liked Lulu was like when Thunderlord's Decree was broken, so that was a while ago. But I was really surprised by how every time I'd press tab against a Lulu, her Moonstone Renewer would have done way more healing than like my Imperial Mandate. Um, and so that might be because it procs when she puts picks on someone and they auto. I'm not actually sure about that interaction, and someone should really test it. Um, but one thing that definitely works is Lulu ult constantly slows nearby enemies. So at least that is like constantly applying Moonstone Renewer in team fights. So then if you're like only gated by the Renewer cooldown, Ingenious Hunter actually reduces that. So um, that's an interesting option. Cosmic Insight does too, I think, and they buffed it as well this patch, so that's another interesting option. Um, But yeah, apart from that, Lulu's kind of boring. One cool thing is Pix lags behind you a bit, so if you're running away from an enemy, you get a bit more range from Pix's glitter lance than the one that comes from you. Then for Sona, I feel like I always say this, but just watch Schubart. I don't think anyone else, myself included, plays Sona seriously right now. So again, that is twitch.tv/Schubart with a bunch of H's in there. Make sure you type it right. But yeah, it just suffices to say that the new items are really good on Sona. Moonstone Renewer, Staff of Flowing Water, even Dark Seal. On Staff of Flowing Water versus Ardent Censer, I feel like Riot is sort of trying to make some like choice where, okay, if your team is AP, you go staff, and if they're AD, you go sensor. But like in reality, staff is just better literally every single game. Like strictly better because it gives you the stats as well, which for enchanters is great when you get ability power and move speed. Obviously, sensor does very little for you, like nothing. Um, as like any enchanter, you're not autoing people, but you are running around and using ability power really well. Especially like Sona does that. Then for other champs, literally every champion in the game uses move speed well, and like even the AP is probably better than the attack speed on most champs. So I kind of feel like it's when Riot first released Sensor, they eventually just had to make Sensor really broken and like start the whole Sensor meta just so people would like try the new items. So like similarly, they're making like Staff Flowing Water a bit too strong at first, so people just start like trying it, but I doubt they'll will leave it in its current state permanently. Like they should really get rid of the movement speed buff. But yeah, Staff Flowing Water is like always better than Sensor. So you can see like it's not even a choice. Like you just always get Staff of Flowing Water on any champion instead of Ardent Sensor. Anyways, then Yumi. Yumi is honestly the most fun champion in the game sometimes, like when you can just hop on your jungler and run the enemy team over. That said, I don't think you can pick Yumi every game, which I'll explain later, but like the most fun I had all preseason was like picking Yumi with this Brazilian Rammus player and just like zooming around at like Mach 7, like one-shotting people while being unkillable. I played a bunch of games with this guy, and like whenever we got Yumi Rammus, it was actually hilarious because I think like just abandoning bot lane for your jungler is what you want to do at some point as Yumi. And like with Rammus, you can just like zoom around and murder people. It's so fun. However, like I said, sometimes you can't pick Yumi. So if you first, if you don't have a carry jungler, say they pick like Iron or something, um, then it's not as good. But that said, Yumi is really good with most meta junglers that people are picking now, um, as well as some other broken champs like Camille. But second, the real reason you can't pick Yumi is the meta right now. People just pick engaged supports and like roam really early to their junglers to win crab fights. So like you pick Yumi, and then they pick Leona, Alistar, whatever. They just go to every crab and it just dooms your jungler. It's kind of interesting. I feel like the focus on these supports, engaged champs moving early to crab fights really intensified in preseason as a result of the NA in-houses. Like Core JJ would just carry his jungler every game by being everywhere on the map. And then like ASIC and Tomio decided, that was the right way to play and just brought it to solo queue for like bot and jungle, and then everyone else, saw ASIC and Tomio like doing this and decided, oh, we have to play for jungle, guys. So I think it's just the meta now is like we have to play for jungle. But with Yumi, you doom those early crab fights really hard. It's just not possible for your jungler to, contest the crabs, which makes the game really unplayable for your jungler, which in turn makes the game pretty difficult overall. So until they nerf supports just like roaming, it could be difficult in some games to play Yumi. And by the same token, because people pick such aggressive, engaged supports and fight so much, Janna, who's just like the safest champion, feels the most playable into that because you can just deny a lot of the fights. She's okay with Moonstone. It's pretty good for her. I don't think it's necessarily as crucial as it is for her as for some other champions. So you can actually delay it a bit to go Dark Seal and have a really high KDA, even Mage Eyes. I think it's only if you're like piss smurfing and can guarantee your high KDA, but it's fun. And that's about it for Janna. On a personal note, I actually got a challenger on this account like January 8th, like just as preseason was ending, and then January 9th, packed up all my stuff into like 4 suitcases and like hopped on a train to St. Louis, where I'm not working. So because of that, I won't. I'm much busier now and don't have time for league during the week, but like hopefully on the weekends and maybe a little bit at night.